Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 74, where I kicked off with d4 and my opponent played the Semi-Slav defense. So let's check it out. It's also a very popular defense, even at the top level. And if you look around here, you'll see c6 right here at this point is most popular. Above, e6, the classical Queen's Gambit declined, and d takes c4, the Queen's Gambit accepted. So knight f3, the most common move, knight f6, and then I play e3, which is not the most common move, knight c3 is, but I am just avoiding all those lines where black takes his pawn, and some of them are kind of complicated, and it's just easier for me to play this line, and I know it, somewhat. So he plays e6 here. He could also sneak the bishop out at this point, bishop f5, which is a main line of the Slav. But when he plays e6, is now a semi-Slav, and I go knight c3, the normal move. And then I was expecting a knight bd7. It's almost always played here, but he plays bishop b4, and there's nothing wrong with this move. It certainly can be played, and I play bishop d3, and now knight bd7 is usually played, but he takes the pawn, and I take back. He castles, and I castle, let's see, and then he goes knight bd7. So we're out of the opening book at that point. So let's go look at the score sheet rather. Yeah, so the moves are pretty normal. I'm just put in the annotations I developed using a chess engine here, and I'll just talk through them rather than leaving the chess engine running. So far so good. I mean, white has the usual opening advantage throughout all of this sequence. I've been playing okay here, and black has been playing reasonable moves as well. e5 is a nice break, and here I'll give you the computer line. It thinks I should go ahead and take this pawn, and so let's check it out. If I take, he takes back, I take, he takes, then I have the move f3. That's what I didn't see. I saw this much, and I just didn't like the pin on this pawn, you know, with the rook and the knight on it, and maybe the idea of playing f5 later to undermine it. But after f3, you know, his rook is kind of confined in terms of the number of squares it can access. Can't get to these squares, for example. And I can get control of the d file here because his queen is on the d file, and I can chase it off with the rook. So the computer gives this line, and then I have to do something about the bishops. But and rates this is slightly better for white. It's not like this is a huge advantage or anything, but it thinks it's better than the way I played. I played okay. I mean, it's not like d5 is a losing move or anything. Still retains a little bit of something for white, but just taking there was the better play. Another thing about this position I wanted to say, I prefer this kind of pawn structure. If I had been able to visualize this in my head, I might have gone for it, because this pawn structure here is slightly unbalanced, and I think that gives more interesting opportunities for maneuvering the pieces and developing them. So you know, I prefer that to a totally symmetrical type of position. So d5 was played, and he went b5. Maybe not the best move there, but still okay. And I went in for this line where I take, and the computer didn't think this was best either, but still playable. So at this point, it thinks the game is about even. And right about here, I played bishop g5. Yeah, and then after I played it, I said, well, I didn't even consider this move, queen takes c4. But it turns out bishop g5 is a good move. Queen takes c4, runs into rook c8. Queen gets out of the way, and then the bishop can grab that knight. And then after a couple moves, the rook can pick up that pawn. So it doesn't really even win a pawn, and black gets activity for his pieces. So queen c4 would have been a mistake if I had even seen that in the game. I hadn't noticed it at all, so I had played bishop g5 with the idea of just continuing to attack through the center, pinning this knight. So he plays queen b6 to get out of the pin and attack my b pawn. So I retreat the bishop, and here it's much stronger, instead of retreating the bishop, to simply defend this with the rook, or play the other rook to c1. You'll see rooks on b1 and c1 are a useful configuration here because of his pressure on these files. And by playing bishop e3, I give him a tempo for this move, and now I start defending. And after this move, rook a b1, he's actually winning. And the tactic here, which was played in the game, so I can't really keep it a secret, bishop takes knight, and then no matter how I take back, if I take back with the pawn, then he can take here twice, and he wins 2 rooks for a queen. Or if I take with the rook, then he takes with the queen. I take with the pawn, he also wins 2 rooks for a queen and a pawn. So I just am losing at this point. The computer points out that I had at this point, instead of defending b2, I had this move, knight d2, which is better. Let him take the pawn on b2 and then grab this pawn on c4. And I actually had thought about that briefly. For some reason, I didn't realize my queen was protected. I thought the knight was pinned there. But the queen is actually defended by the knight. And so this is an okay position, about even. But after rook a to b1, I'm just losing. And so he takes the knight. I decide to take, I can take with either the rook or the pawn, but it amounts to the same thing pretty much. So I decide to take with the rook. And he gets that check in there. Knight e1. Yeah, he doesn't even win the c-pawn, that's right. Not yet. Although it's kind of loose. And so white is just winning along here. And my move bishop d2 was not the most accurate move here. I need to play f3 right away. I was thinking of playing f3 and kicking it, but I thought he would just take the pawn. But after he takes the pawn, actually there's this neat move, queen d2. And see if you can spot the tactic here. I drew a line. Yes, it's a fork. So actually, the best move for him is not to take the pawn, but just to retreat the knight. And then I'm okay. Black is still better, but not as much better as he was in the game. So after I play bishop to d2, knight takes d2 is not the strongest move here. The strongest move here is bishop to c6. I guess the point is this bishop isn't really going anywhere, and I need to try and make some space for my king. If I play f3 here to chase the knight, then he takes on d2, and then he can play e4, kind of busting things open. And I can't move my king to f2 because of e3 check, forking the king and the queen. So I take the pawn, he takes with the rook, and notice that this check on the back rank doesn't mate him because his rook can come back to this square where it's defended by the bishop and chase me away. So I go king f2 now, and I'm just losing the knight. There's 2 rooks on it. So this is just winning for white, black. Winning for black in a big way, that bishop c6 move. So fortunately for me, he played knight d2 right away, and this allows me to fight on for a few more moves. And as long as the game is going, I make some lift for my king and escape. So now my knight is no longer pinned. So I'm activating my pieces one by one, trying to get back into the game. And now he chases my queen away and attacks the f-pawn. I counterattack his e-pawn and his rook on b8. So he can't take here. He pushes ahead with e4, and I move my knight to e5, hitting this pawn and also the pawn on f7. And he plays rook to b6. So actually this is not a great move, and almost returns the game to even. So his best try here is just e3, pushing ahead. Actually, this is still winning for white. I take, and he can play bishop to e4, and there's no way to defend this pawn on g2. King runs away. Rook takes g2, check, king to f4, and you see he's chasing my king to the middle of the board. He's picked up a pawn, and my pawn structure is a mess. I've got four independent, isolated pawns, 4 pawns and 4 islands. So anyway, that would be good for black. So when he played this move, rook to b6, it just chases my queen to a better square. Of course, we're both starting to run low on time, so I think the quality of the moves is starting to go down because of that. And he didn't notice this is a sort of a triple attack. I'm attacking this way, and this way. And I was expecting to move bishop e6, after which I play queen e4. And here the game is even, actually. The computer rates this as even. So I would have gotten back into the game at this point. But he plays a move that's even worse. He plays rook to b3, just counterattacking my pawns. and he neglects this possibility of queen taking on f7. But this is a fork again. Sorry, this is a fork. And so he's losing a piece here. And what's instructive here is, I mean, I do go on to win the game from here, but I start right away with not making the most accurate moves. Now, I was short on time, so in a real game I would search and find the best way to end this, because you know, you've got an advantage. You want to put your opponent down as quickly as you can. And here's a neat tactical trick here to do it. So knight f7 check hits the king, and he has no squares to go to except for g8, only move. Then knight takes h6 check, and now the king goes back. You can probably check again, and I didn't look at what happens if the king goes back, but let's see. G takes h6. If he takes the knight, then there's queen g6 check, and no matter which way the king moves, the queen goes to this square, and it's forking the king and the rook and picks up a rook. So this is just winning big time. And let's see, there is another possibility. So the king can't go here, here, here. He could go here. There is a queen to this square or this square. Check. Forces him back here. I wonder, yeah, I don't see the immediate mate, but maybe here is going to lead to a mate. The knight's now hitting this square and this square, and the rook comes over to chase the queen away. Then queen here is checkmate. So I don't guarantee the accuracy of this variation, but that's a plausible way to win. Anyway, so instead I played knight to g6 check, the other check, and you know, I don't really get a whole lot out of this. I don't lose my advantage, but I don't gain much except a pawn there. And my opponent runs out of time in this position. I put my queen here to stop this pawn from advancing, and I'm still winning according to the computer. I have a winning advantage here, but it just wasn't the quickest way to win. And definitely, given enough time, you really want to stop. Assuming you have enough time, you really want to stop and examine those positions and find the fastest winning continuation. Because as you see, if you don't put your opponent away when you have the chance, sometimes they get back into the game. So that's it for this postmortem. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any comments, leave them in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.